Good morning. Now, my guests are seated. And guess what? Abdul Malik Kwekubako, editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper. He's back. Thank you very much for coming to the studio, Kweku.
Thank you, my brother.
Right. And as you may have already heard him, he's introduced himself already, giving us quotable quotes, which I referred to in my introduction, about scaremongering by Giba and nationalistic emotionalism. We'll find out what exactly that is. Also here in the studio is Kofi Bento. He's a lawyer and Vice President, Imani Africa. Welcome.
Thank you.
Like you two, you have been away, globe trotting. I've seen you go around the globe. Also in the studio is the Honorable Inus Afuseni, MP. He's a lawyer, MP, Tamale Central, ranking member, Legal, Constitutional and Parliamentary Affairs. Also here is Alexander Kwamina Afinyomaking, who's also a lawyer, a FUTU, member of Parliament, a FUTU, and member Public Accounts, Defense and Interior Committees of Parliament. Welcome. Thank you very much. Okay, so as I have introduced to you by way of my introduction to this show, we are heading straight to Menzgold to find out whether or not, if we have our savings there or if we have our gold bars there, we can take our gold bars away, because they made a call to all clients to show up and receive dividends, the golden dividends. Is that going to happen? We understand something is going on, but how exactly is it being carried out? Of course, you know that they have also sued the regulators for damaging their reputation and seeking hefty damages against them. And also that what they do is an unregulated industry. So the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Bank of Ghana should simply back off. Okay. Now, let's quickly just listen into a couple of things. Paul Abebio, he is with the Securities and Exchange Commission. He has something to say. And after that, Nana Ofe, who is Corporate Affairs Manager of Menzgold, have been speaking. Let's hear what they have to say.
Our instruction to them was to halt doing new business. Because again, if you think of a trading platform that is in operation, and you are told to stop operation because your activity is illegal, if you have certain contractual obligations to your lenders, we expect that you would settle those obligations as and when they fall due. So from that perspective, and I think our letter specifically said that they should stop issuing new contracts. But paying out existing contracts, that doesn't stop you from doing that. So I think that's a point that has to be clarified.
Menzgold Ghana Limited has filed suit this afternoon against the Bank of Ghana and the Securities and Exchange Commission. We have been constrained to do so because we have been left with no other choice. Under the circumstances, we have filed suit to seek a healthy determination of our rights to enable us make progress. In the interim period, we are very much alive to the needs of our customers. It is, however, important to note that the recent circumstances has dislodged the shape and the projections of our business. To that end, we have set out a payment schedule starting tomorrow to be circulated to all our customers. Customers are encouraged to only visit their branches on the date for their collections, as the schedule will strictly be adhered to avoid overcrowding at the branches. It is pertinent to note, however, that the period starting Wednesday, 12 September 2018 to date, whilst the gold vote market has remained forcefully shut by the Securities and Exchange Commission, regrettably shall not attract any form of returns whatsoever, as the business of the gold trade has been and still is dormant. Finally, the dint of the shutdown of the gold trade, the firm cannot process any kind of termination on the gold vault until a healthy restoration is determined by the courts. It is important to note that but for these unwarranted obstructions, Menzgold has had 100% unblemished record with regards to payment of extra values to traders. In our 5 years of operations, there isn't any single case on record suggesting default payment as a variable matter of fact. We wish to state these statements or make these pronouncements as against the ongoing little dispute, I may call it, or misunderstanding, which we believe that in order to seek justice, we have confronted or we have sent our plea to the courts of competent jurisdiction. And we believe that at the end of the day, we believe strongly that Ghana shall prosper. Long live Menzgold, long live Ghana as a whole.
All right. So I'll start with the MP for F2. Now, because he does quite some bit of practice in law in respect of matters that have to do a bit about, you know, maybe securities of money. Now, can we go to the jugular? The reason the Securities and Exchange Commission came out to give a clarification of its earlier directive of suspension was that there was an impression given by Menzgold that they were unable to process dividends. So they came to explain that that's not what their earlier directive was. Their earlier directive was that stop operating the gold vault, don't take any new clients. That does not stop you from paying dividends. Menzgold has organized, of course, there was an earlier press release, then they organized a press conference and stated that what their clients are entitled to in the meantime is their dividends. But because they have taken up a suit, they cannot deal with termination of the contracts of their clients. So what it is that if you went there yesterday, at the Jawolo branch alone yesterday, we understand they paid dividends to about 50 people. We don't know the story elsewhere. So if you went there, you could only get your dividends. If you ask for your investment, you cannot get it. What's the basis of this? Is there a basis for that at all?
Something, thank you for the opportunity. I would have wished that others would have started, but it's okay. About 5 years ago, I took up a case involving a gentleman who said he was into forex trading, and the account had been frozen by FIC, that the earnings were illegal. The argument of FIC was that he had no license. We debated the matter or argued it in court, and FIC was asked.
FIC is the Financial Intelligence Center of the Bank of Ghana.
No. It's an entity.
They are separate from the Bank of Ghana. Okay.
You know, to fight money laundering.
The Bank of Ghana is a unit.
At the time, it was Financial Intelligence Unit until Act 749 came into being. So they are city house.
Okay.
Now, the question was whether the gentleman needed a license from any regulator to engage in forex trading, and whether having earned that income, he was subject to any regulation or whatsoever. FIC could not provide to the court any law to support its claim. So I think the court granted the release of the funds and advised FIC to look at the lacuna in the law.
Lacuna, vacuum.
Yeah, the vacuum in the law, okay, and see how to coordinate with other state institutions to address that. In all sincerity, I've listened to Menzgold. I've heard from Bank of Ghana. I've also listened attentively to SEC. I've read their law. It appears to me that both are on different paths. It appears for now, Bank of Ghana has washed off its hands from the issue. To the extent that it is now Securities and Exchange Commission clearly tells you that Bank of Ghana is saying that it is no more a matter. That's where we are now. Okay. That no more BOG, but SEC. So SEC must make clear what their argument is. The man says that my line of business does not fall under your regulation. So you can't regulate me. But can we also say that with the nature of the business being undertaken by this company and the risk involved, must we allow them to operate without any regulation? And if there is no such regulation, what must we do as a state? Look, Samson, in 2015, although I was in opposition, but I felt for the government. President Mahama was in Parliament lamenting about Bank of Ghana and its failure in its supervisory mandates, leading to the DKM God is Love saga. What did it lead to? A political backlash. We as a party benefited in opposition. People were not happy. They blamed government. So today, the flip side, if the state institution responsible for some of these issues does not take steps to address the issues that have come up, and there's any matter arising thereof, the people of Ghana will blame the government, and it is the government that will suffer. But to conclude on the point, the need to regulate or whatever discussions ensuing between the two parties shouldn't be a matter for media and unnecessary speculation and personal attacks and innuendos and insinuations. We have gone beyond
that point now. Yes, the matters have come to a head. It is the reason they are in court.
Exactly. I'll come to that because, you see, that market they operate is speculative. If you issue a statement, if you don't communicate well, then everybody gets there. It creates a problem also for the economy. Because obviously, if you don't manage it, walking on a slippery ice, you have to be careful. But I'm happy that Menzgold has taken that step to initiate a court action. To, as they put it, a healthy solution. I'm happy about that bold decision by their counsel. Let's go to court and litigate this matter. The issue of termination. That
is the biggest concern of their customers.
Of course.
They are very worried.
I'm coming to that.
At this moment, they are listening to you carefully.
Yes, I'm coming to that point. You see, let's be fair. The regulator says that we can't operate. So for now, we have ceased operations. How do we make money? How do we pay you? They can't, although there is a contract. But at this stage, it is no more a primary injunction, it's a secondary injunction. From the regulator says that you can't do this business. So we are left with a choice to return your principal investment or to hold it pending the determination by the court. If the court comes out with a ruling saying that, look, the area is unregulated, so makes a directive that, look, the SEC, within 90 days, come up with a regulation, come up with a law that will cover this area, that's fine. SEC, you unduly attack their business, and for that matter, any losses resulting thereto, you are supposed to pay. That would also be within the mandate of the court to determine. But for now, it will be unreasonable, having been stopped from operating, to say, or customers to still have a legitimate expectation that they should be paid some dividend. Is it a form of force majeure? I have been stopped. They have been told that I can't do it. I am saying that no, it's within my right to do it. But for the time being, I must be a good citizen. The directive is that don't. If you do, this will be the problem. So as a good citizen, I say, okay, I will abide by that directive. Meanwhile, I still have my own contentions. I'm going to court for determination. Until the court determines it, I can't operate. If I can't operate, I'm unable to pay dividend for the period that have been stopped from operating. But those who have some earnings due, I am going to put in place plans to pay, which I've started. I think that is a fair position, and you cannot expect more.
Okay. Honorable Nusa, are you also, would you support that position? Because their clients clearly are very disturbed. They feel that if you have been suspended and you are unable to continue your operations, they say they are aware of the SEC directive. It said, stop one aspect of your business, which is the gold vault trade market. Stop that. Don't take on new clients until there is a final determination. Suspend. Now, they sought information. They have not received that information. So they seem to suggest that in the absence of the information they requested, they are unable to bring a final resolution. Earlier, they were unsure if they regulated you. So they were clear and said that they didn't think they had the power to regulate you. But now they are unequivocal in saying that you come under them. Is there legal basis for Menzgold to say, come for your dividends only and not your principal?
Well, to answer the question straightforward, there's no basis in law or in practice by convention to say that a person who has deposited his money with you and having subjected your operations to scrutiny by the regulatory authorities, you can no longer, or you are no longer entitled to your deposits until the matter with the regulators is resolved. That somehow is a constructive deprival of your deposit, which you are entitled to at any time. And so, and that also lends credence to the suspicions that people have about Menzgold. The issue is not the dividends. The issue has always been with the principal in schemes of that nature. Because they might be using the principal in paying what they call the dividends. That's always the issue. So they are very clever. I mean, they are so clever that they have gone to court. And I share entirely the position of my colleague here. That what is happening brings to sharp focus what we've all learned in our studies of the law about the concept of the rule of law. A very fundamental concept within the concept of the rule of law is that no one should be subject to penal sanctions except in accordance with law. Menzgold is saying that they don't come under the regulatory ambit of Securities and Exchange Commission. And to the extent that they don't deal in securities, SEC cannot, by extension of their regulatory functions, seek to regulate them. So they have no such power. And that, when you look at the action, and that because SEC has written to them, has communicated publicly notices about their activities, the combined effect of the communication and the letters to them hurts their reputation. And so they are entitled to redeem their reputation and be compensated for that damage to their reputation. That's clearly matters about the rule of law. Okay. And so, to that extent, I don't have a problem. But again, it exposes in this country the paralysis of law enforcement agencies and the lack of institutional mechanisms to deal with such situations. Menzgold has been around for a very long time, 5 years. Yes. And I have had engagement with people in high places who have expressed an interest to deposit their resources with Menzgold. Yesterday I was reading that one musician in this country has put as much as $5 million in Menzgold. Why? Because every month he's getting close to 10% interest, or what they call dividends. Cumulatively, it means that every year, Menzgold will pay him more than the amount of money he has deposited. 10% a month?
120%.
120%.
That's more than just You're right. Okay. 120%.
Yes.
Every month is 10%.
Then you ask yourself, so how can such a business be sustainable? You see, what is happening in Menzgold is difficult to speak about, but it's impossible to be silent.
The clients are presently blaming the regulators and not Menzgold.
It's true, because we have also created a situation in which people just feel that if you have money and somebody's offering a scheme which can give you good returns, you can just go put the money there and go to sleep. In fact, we've created situations where people just encourage and glorify laziness. Put your money there, and it's difficult to talk people out of such situations. Menzgold's business raises serious issues: financial, legal, moral, social issues, serious issues. The last time I had opportunity to speak on Menzgold, I suggested that, and that was the first time they challenged the power, the regulatory power of the Bank of Ghana to issue notices directed at them. Flowing on the Bank of Ghana's directive, SEC also issued. Again, that exposed the lacuna that he referred to. That exposed the lacuna, because so the obvious question to ask is, who regulates Menzgold? Two state critical institutions are purporting to exercise.
You said earlier that the fundamental thing, the assertion that Menzgold is making, essentially is that the rule of law dictates that you cannot suffer penal sanctions unless a law has criminalized what you do, which we have also said in our Constitution, in Article 19, that nothing is crime unless it has been what? Prescribed in the law, and the sanctions also detailed in the law. This is what the SEC said when they wrote that their letter to Menzgold dated the 7th of September 2018, which they titled Notice to Suspend Trading Without License. Now, among others, they said they had interactions, they had visited Menzgold, and so on and so forth, and that they confirmed the view that the aspect of Menzgold's business, which involves the purchase / deposit of gold collectibles from the public and contracts issued with guaranteed returns with clients, is a capital markets activity, in bracket, issuance of gold-backed depository notes to the public, bracket close, under Act 929 without a valid license issued by the Securities and Exchange Commission, contrary to Section 109 of that Act, with consequences under Section 2061 of the same Act. Subsequent to visits by the SEC officials, a request for specific detailed information was made, and Menzgold has, through its lawyers, agreed to provide the necessary information requested by the SEC within 14 days. The provision of the information, however, does not make the aspect of that aspect of Menzgold's operation any less of an illegality. So they are very clear, an illegality under Act 929, as well as a threat to unsuspecting and uninformed investors. So they are saying that there is basis.
Yes, that's what they're saying. But in the same letter, they are asking for further information.
Right.
So they've left a window of opportunity, and that window of opportunity emboldened Menzgold to continue to challenge their assertion. You get it?
Yes.
And then that is what is continuing. And that is what has led to the court. So when this thing came up, no, human beings are human beings.
But Council, if SEC is saying they have breached the law, the operations is illegal, and they have gone further to say that there are sanctions. Question is, have they sanctioned Menzgold?
Have they sanctioned Menzgold?
I mean, if your contention is that
and they
there are
refer
sanctions,
to section
209
209
for the sanctions.
Of the sanctions.
so what happened to sanctions?
Well, so again, you leave that's
There's
why
still
they left space. They left space, and so that's why I said that.
It's rather 206,
206.
section 206(1) of the Act.
Of the Act. So you determine.
And if you read that section,
Yes.
there are penalties to be paid in monetary, terms, and also even prison terms.
Yes.
Of I think up to about 3, 5, or up to 10 years of
So
prison.
if it is conclusive that what they are engaging is in breach of the Securities and Exchange law, what they ought to do is to suffer penalties. You don't ask for information. And you can't even visit the penalties on them. Again, the concept of the rule of law. That yes, having come to that determination, it is not for you to impose the sanctions. You do what? You send him or them to an independent, neutral arbiter to demonstrate that indeed they have breached. So why do you ask for information? You see the paralysis I was talking about. In fact, if they had purported or acted on what they believe was an infringement of the law, there would have been a determination of sorts by now in court.
Truth. Menzgold actually wrote back and said, you are saying you're looking for information, yet you have gone ahead without the information to shut us down. That is wrong. But what members of the public are asking is, what is it about this information that Menzgold has been reluctant to supply? If he has supplied that, would it not have at least, prevented what we are seeing now? And now its customers are running all over the place.
So is the shutdown a sanction?
Definitely, they even have referred to it that they are unable to pay deposits. Unable.
Yeah.
They've excluded the 12th of September. And they're saying that but because of the directive of the 12th of September, they are unable to process. That's the sanction. And they're even passing on the effect to customers.
Right.
So that one is...
Now I'm talking about SEC, the directive to shut down. You see, if you have some penal sanctions, you have the law. You see, Council,
And this was
we
the
have
directive.
our problem.
And this was the directive. Accordingly, the SEC hereby directs Menzgold Company Limited to shut down immediately the business of trading in gold collectibles with guaranteed returns to clients, which constitutes in essence dealing in securities, with neither the necessary license nor disclosures authorized by the SEC. No new contracts should be created, and all advertising of the investment business halted with immediate effect. Failure to comply with this directive will lead to the SEC employing other relevant measures under the law to enforce compliance.
So you see, when SEC came to this determination, all they ought to have done was to proceed to court for an order directing the closure.
Oh, they had that power in their law.
Oh, they have a power in the law, yes, but they themselves are not...
Can't enforce it.
Can't enforce it. They have that power.
You can issue the order.
They issue the order and it's not adhered to, it's not followed. So what do you do?
go to court,
You go to court. Put a finality to it. But you see, the hesitant manner in which they have gone about all these things is what has led us to where we are. Now, you see, we are restraining ourselves in commenting that far because Menzgold is in court. And in this case, they are the plaintiff.
But Afia Michael was making the point that we create our own problems. And what do you mean by that over this circumstance? What problems are we creating by ourselves?
My problem is this. You have the law. In one breath, you are using the law. In another breath, you are creating your own situation of, as it were, I need information. I want solution. What exactly do you want to do? My point is that if sex really want to go by the law, there are sanctions. The man, you claim the company is operating without a license. If you operate without a license, what are you supposed to suffer? Right. Have they imposed those sanctions? Merely demanding a shutdown or merely directing a shutdown in itself comes to nothing. There must be some primary steps to be taken before the shutdown. What have you done? Okay. Have you imposed any penalty on them for operating without a license? They have not.
So you said they should shut down in terms of the directive of
even though the notice says suspension, the you know what they wrote said shut down.
Shut down. So and what is it? Is it that they have gone there to tie red ribbons or to seal up the place by virtue of the letter that they have sent? What have they done? And when they wrote the letter and there was no activity, what did they do? These are the questions.
Okay. And I think it's that conduct that is making some people feel that they are unduly attacking Menzgold, a Ghanaian business, and you want to victimize them, you envy and those because if your sanction regime is not certain, it's not clear enough, the way you're going about it, you give every cause for people to think that now Kofi, you are unfairly treating someone.
Kofi, they had concluded that statement by saying this directive does not preclude you from continuing your other businesses of assaying, purchasing gold from small-scale miners and export of gold. Do you agree particularly with, we have heard from Ghanaians who live particularly outside of the country, suggest that this situation could have been better handled. Do you agree?
Yes, I agree, could have.
Because what we have gotten to, it is a point of no return. The business is gone.
Yes, we shouldn't have gotten here. And 2 years ago, myself, others were writing about this. I think that I am not one who subscribes to overreach by regulatory agencies. It's something I'm very sensitive to. But where you find activity which by its nature can create systemic problems, you have this kind of problem and it's going to affect so many people, there is room or there is a case for the responsible institutions there to take even preemptive action. This is one of those cases. Now, Menzgold has been around for about 5 years. This government came into power 2 years or so ago. So the question is, who was in charge when they set their roots and started? That's first question. And I don't mean to play the politics of it, but I'm trying to say this, that our institutions of state, which have to look out for us, must be up and doing so they don't create this kind of problem, which is leading to the question you're asking. Now here we are, what do you do? I think this has arisen, one, and we should be clear about it, because of greed. Greed, plain greed. And to that extent, I think every Ghanaian must learn a lesson. We have had not less than 10 Ponzi scheme situations in this country. People losing money and then they run to government. Piram, R5, God is Love, DKM, name them. And we still do this thing. Now, but that greed is one of the things that you can't legislate away, which is why we have institutions. And I agree with Inisa when he says that our institutions have been indolent. They should have acted quickly. And that's why I say it's not just this government's problem, but it is on your watch, so you will take a hit for it. But whoever was in charge at the time these guys started working should have dealt with them. Now you have a situation, what do? You have to go in. Now, I am not one of those people who say there's a lacuna. There is no lacuna.
Okay.
There is no problem with the law. The law sufficiently captures this kind of activity. It's securities trading. Securities trading is where you take somebody's funds and you mix it with your skill and invest it in different ways, and then gain a certain return, which you share with the person. In this case, gold is used as the means, okay, to generate those funds. And then with the skill, they trade it and they share, the returns. It's classic securities trading. It is even more so because, you know what? The start of
what does it tell you when the Securities and Exchange Commission earlier was clear that it didn't have the mandate to deal with them?
That is where I have the biggest problem. I have the biggest problem because it's in their law. And the start of all securities trading started with gold-backed trading.
Yeah.
And it's still done. In India, they regulate it. So I don't know why this was a problem. And I remember 2 years ago, we were talking about it. Ace and Kuma has written about it. Many people have said, look, crack down on this. So I said, one, greed, and we should address our own people. Stop doing these things. Two, our institutions must be clear about some of these things when they happen, because very quickly they become a social problem. Now, as we speak, the cease and desist or the instruction to Menzgold to stop trading has said nothing about dealing with the heart of it. It says stop paying interest. Listen, for the sake of the general public, it's more complex, but I'll reduce it to this. It's like buying treasury bills. It's like you bought treasury bills of 10 million cedis, and then you give it to somebody and say, this is 10 million cedis. I just want to collect the interest every month. So they pay you interest every month, but your treasury bills are there.
Yeah.
SEC says stop paying the interest. You can go today and ask for your treasury bills. The principal is not encumbered. Anybody who is supposed to have bought gold and given it to Menzgold can go and take their gold back. Either the gold physically or the money with which they bought the gold.
The gold liquid.
Let's be clear.
The Securities and Exchange Commission Act defines securities to include commodities, futures, commodity futures, contracts, options or other derivatives. Derivatives here are also defined under the Act as a financial instrument whose characteristics and value are dependent on or derived from one or more underlying assets, such as a commodity, bond, equity, or currency.
Anywhere you see commodity, you can put gold. Gold. So first, there is no lacuna, there is no confusion about the law. It is the failure of our institutions to act. Secondly, for the sake of the public, there is no impediment in your way from going for your deposit, your principal. You see, Menzgold sought to play a game to try and avoid a certain level of scrutiny. I am not attacking them. I'm just saying things for what they are. So they played a certain game by saying, okay, you buy gold, then you give me the gold, I keep the gold, and I do the trading. That same scheme is what has trapped them today. Because what you're saying is that people have gold deposited with you, give them back their gold. Those who want to keep their gold, they should keep their gold, but they won't get any interest until the matter is finished. Their court case does not stop them from doing so. The SEC has not stopped them from doing so. Their statement that they are not able to pay people their dividends has no backing, no basis. Their contract does not allow them to do so. The contract they have with their people don't allow them to do so.
No, the dividend part, with all respect, I disagree with
No, the dividend,
the dividend
stop
part, they
paying.
cannot. Yeah.
The
fact that, the principal, yes, of course.
Yes, so
that one you are supposed
so
to.
being clear, I'm saying
you gave an example. Let me assist you a little before you continue. He gave a very good example, but not in this case, not in treasury bills. You go to the bank with your money, and that's what they were doing. They were only equating what they were taking in terms of gold.
Yeah.
But the people went there with their money, and they said, okay, so you bought this quantity of gold, and we're going to pay you this every month. Okay.
You go to their sister company.
Yes.
You purchase the gold.
You never get gold. You deposit money.
No, you do.
That's a scheme they created. They give you something.
There were circumstances according to the mystery shopping, mystery shopping done by the Bank of Ghana, where they didn't get fiscal gold.
Yes.
But when they tried again, they got fiscal gold.
They gave them something called
from
gold.
They gave them something called gold.
Well, it's gold.
So
until proving otherwise.
So you. I was at the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. The only time I saw gold was when I went to PRMC. That was the first time I saw gold. So, and you see,
look, your ring is gold. Look at my own.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you see, so you go to the bank, you put your money, mental, and the bank says that we are going to pay you 15% per month. In the agreement, they say that you have a 91-day deposit. If you redeem your deposit before the 91 days, you will lose part of the interest. That's what should happen. Simple. That's what is happening. You get your principal, but you will lose your interest. So, but you can't say that you get your interest.
So, Kofi, do you agree? Do you agree with your colleague lawyers here, and I mean senior lawyers, say that number one, the manner and the conduct of SEC is problematic because they proceed on a basis which they are not properly clothed with authority so to do. SEC refers to Section 2061 of their law. Section 2061 of their law says that a person that carries on a business as an operator specified in Section 109 without a license issued under this Act is liable to pay to the Commission an administrative penalty of 4,500 penalty units. 4,500 penalty units. So 12 cedis times 4,000. Yeah. So that's what you are supposed to pay. So this is what it is. They are able to even slap administrative fines. And if you default, then that is when they kick the court process. Is that not the case?
It's a bit more than that. I think that they are right to the extent that SEC has not done well by this. But it is not because they have overreached. It is because they have underreached. They have actually not exacted all the powers that they have been given. And my point is that when you fail to do that, you create big problems. Now, so SEC should have gone in straight. And I made the point starting that when this Menzgold thing started in the last government, you see, when these institutions start, that's why they have to get a license before they start. Whoever was in charge then should have told them, you prove to me that you have the proper license to do this. And if they didn't have it, they shouldn't have let them start. This government came to meet a tiger half grown. All right. Now, yes, they are right by saying that the SEC should have looked at their law and gone straight in and implemented the law. That would have ceased those operations and forced them to come and regularize before they go ahead. They didn't do that. Now, in going in, they go in wishy-washy, joking around the law that empowers them, as if they don't have the power.
And now check what the law also says. Check what the law also says, that where they are seeking information and they claim they are not getting and they feel handicapped. The law also says that a person authorized by the Commission, number one, if they come to the conclusion that what they are doing comes under their jurisdiction, they need license from them to be able to operate. Now, the law says if you have been given a license by them to operate, and they need information, they said the Commission may enter any premises or property which the Commission has reason to believe is occupied or used by a person in contravention of this Act or any regulation made under this Act. To do what? Search for a book, record, statement, document, or any other items. Seize or make a copy of a book, record, statement, document, or any other items. Question a person, which they did, they questioned people there. Auditor, director, member, or a partner of a person conducting business in the premises. Direct that the premises or any part of it or anything on it be secured and left undisturbed for as long as is necessary. And check this, close down the business as the Commission considers necessary. Then they come forward to say, the law comes forward to say, if you disobey these directives, number one, they can get, it says, any person who, without reasonable excuse, refuses or fails to comply with a directive given under, the law, furnishes information or makes a statement that is false or misleading, I just want to get to the bottom of it, that they can actually get the police assistance to do the closure and other things, And when you disobey, you commit an offense and you are liable on summary conviction to a fine of not less than 150 penalty units and not more than 500 penalty units, or to a term of imprisonment of not less than 1 year and not more than 3 years, or both.
So that tells you that there was sufficient basis for SEC acting. In fact, there's another part. That part says that even where you are properly licensed in the beginning and you engage in things that do not, work together with your license, all these things can happen to you.
Okay.
So even where it's clear, like all the proper trading companies around, when they do things that SEC is not happy with, they can visit all these things on them. So how did we lose out dealing with a situation like this? So yes, I agree with you, indolence, but this paralysis is where you don't have the energy or the strength.
No, they themselves have.
So they didn't have any paralysis. It's indolence. You have the power, you refuse to do your work. And look, it's a big issue because you see, people or ordinary people, when they see these things come up, have an assumption that since it is out there for everybody to see, the government has checked up on it.
Okay.
And that is why state institutions exist.
But that's a presumption that people are entitled to make.
People are entitled to make that presumption. So I'm saying that when you're a state institution and you have the power to act for the defense of people to prevent these things from happening, and you do not act, you in actual fact become the problem. Now, well, we have it on our hands. What do we do? What we have to do is to go in quickly and be clear about the actions being taken. And that is why on this platform we are saying clearly that the statements Menzgold has made are self-serving and they are not supported by the present position of the law. Statements to the effect that they are stopped from paying principal. So please let it be clear.
Yeah.
They have been stopped from continuing their activity, stopped from paying dividend or interest, but they are not stopped from paying principal, because it is necessary for the public to understand that. And I think they must conduct themselves in an orderly way, and hopefully we will not have another DKM on our hand.
Okay, thank you. Koko?
Well, the lawyers have spoken. And I have to be very honest with you. I really tried tracking this matter whilst I was outside. I didn't get a deeper understanding.
Because I became aware of that. That's why I allowed all of them to speak
Fantastic.
before you take
Yes,
it.
and it's been very helpful that they spoke before your invitation for me to come in. But you see, I get and this is a very instinctive reaction, I get the feeling that more or less this is a banana republic. Relative to this issue. The impotence, the inertia of regulatory authority. And we've read laws here, the statutes, is it the Act, Security State? And I'm amazed that in there was sufficient legal regime to have triggered in order to cure this mischief long ago. They've gone to court. It's as if it's a preemptive strike. You are the lawyers, I'm asking a question. Could the state or the appropriate state agencies do a counter-court rate relative to issues that
Counterclaim.
Even in
counterclaim, yeah.
they'll do a counterclaim.
Can they?
Oh, they will.
They will. Not another rate, but
They ought to.
They will. They should.
You see, unfortunately, this is a rule of law. That's so unfortunately, because you can't force anybody.
Yeah.
We are not in those days that
yeah.
we could just do anything we wanted. So here we are. We are constrained by the fact that we live in a democracy, and we must ensure that due process is applied in dealing with any challenge. So here we are. If they've gone to court, and what I've heard on this table tells me that no, they also have a bad case somewhere along the line. One has to be very clear about this. The state cannot just watch without doing anything. There should be a counterclaim. Beyond that, look, I understand sometimes why people say, oh, relax, be patient. Out there are millions of Ghanaians perhaps whose monies are trapped. Is the gold available?
Where?
Bankers who have taken loans and have invested.
Yes, I'm even told some state agencies
Have moved their monies there.
On that, let's be clear. Even in law, when you come into court, your conduct will be viewed against your person and what you are supposed to know. So if a chartered accountant acts in certain ways, they'll say, as a chartered accountant, you should have known this and this. It is a different thing for ordinary people. We had tilapia, US tilapia or something. Immediately it was announced, I told people that this is a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
And it ran for a while. So you are right when you say that. We look like a Ponzi.
Yeah. Okay, let's allow Koku to finish this.
I'm finished. What else am I going to say? I'm finished.
The bank officials, the educated people, the state institutions, and whoever have put their monies there, they have to answer for that.
I'm telling you.
Because this does not look right, and you should have known, being who you are.
Yeah, action.
And better.
You don't agree with them that they should be paying only dividends, but they should pay the principal as well?
It's the opposite.
There's no law. No, says that you
It's,
shouldn't pay.
it's rather the principal that they should be paying.
SEC says stop operation. So they have a case in not paying dividends. But SEC has not said don't pay people's monies.
Don't return people's monies to them.
I don't mean to sound some way, but truth is, anybody who has a contract from Menzgold can, on the basis of that contract, demand their principal tomorrow. Nothing stops them
Would
from
they be
doing
capable of delivering it?
That is another
From what
matter.
I'm hearing.
The contract would have even recited
That is another
that
matter.
you can always take back your money.
But let me say this
Yes.
finally. You see, the nature of the scheme they created itself, which is why I'm saying has trapped them, was to the effect that we have your gold and we are trading your gold.
Yeah.
And we'll give you the interest. So in effect, the gold is there. That is why we are saying.
Are you sure it's there?
Whether it's there or not is another matter. But this is what they have said.
I'm hearing something different.
Yes, this is what they have said. It's like I said, you buy T-bills and give it to a bank and say, these are T-bills, I just want my interest. If I have any problem with the interest, I'll go back for my T-bill. Whether it's there or not is another matter. And frankly, that is where sometimes the bigger problems are going to start.
And then,
I think, sorry, Council.
Yeah.
I think that, to be fair to Menzgold, the fact that they have gone to court and won the court, as they put it, to ensure a healthy solution. Since we are talking democracy, rule of law, due process, much as we think that there are more questions to be answered regarding the operations, we have also not lost sight of the fact that the regulator, as Kweku, all of us have come to that consensus, went to sleep. But once the matter is in court and they have raised issues, and on this table, a possibility of counterclaim has even been raised, perhaps we may also have to be well guided not to create a certain impression that people may come to certain definitive conclusions. Because the matter is in court. I agree with you that the principal ought to be paid.
There is no injunction.
If there's a demand for payment of the principal by a customer,
It should be paid.
I agree.
Yes.
I agree.
Until the court orders otherwise.
Of course.
And we don't have any such order.
No court can ever order that your principal that you have invested should never be paid.
So that would be
an unconstitutional amendment.
Let's be clear about that.
Okay.
Let me just say something small before you come in.
Uneducated question.
Yes.
Assuming
Yes.
they were to declare bankruptcy, what happened?
We don't have bankruptcy.
But assuming they've invested, boss,
That's another matter.
Kofi, there's also another issue.
I'm just asking.
The notice, if you demand.
In fact, let me answer his question.
Sorry,
Immediately
did you say they cannot declare bankruptcy?
They cannot declare. Immediately
we don't
the
have
people
clear
start
bankruptcy laws in Ghana.
making demands,
So the effect of that.
and they are unable to meet those demands for the return of their principal, then they will be on the path to being declared bankrupt.
Yes. And if the limited liability
what happens
provisions
to
in the
the
law,
gold?
that will kick in.
And an official liquidator will appointed
Winding
to
up.
manage and
Winding up.
So what I'm saying
Something.
is that Kofi raised an issue. The Menzgold started 5 years ago. But again, that is where I come. You say indolence. My brother Koko says impotence. I say paralysis.
So let's
Menzgold goes for a license. And to buy gold from small-scale miners, he uses that license to engage in business that is not supposed to be engaged in under that license. What did our state institutions do? So what I'm saying is
under
that
your government.
no, but what
You
I'm
were minister for mines.
what I'm saying is that what I'm just trying to draw your attention to is that a person could start on a journey lawfully.
Samson, I wanted to make a very quick
right.
point.
I'll let you do
on
so.
the basis of what.
then we take a break.
On the basis of what Kofi
Right.
said.
But I just
It is
wanted
within-
all of you not to forget, lose sight of the fact that the contracts that they sign, they sign up to, make a demand for their principal at any time
Yes.
before maturity, except that they will lose 25%
of the interest.
Yes,
That's still in the contract.
25% of the principal. Yeah.
That is in normal times.
Yes.
That is in normal times.
Right.
Where no regulator, where no third party has obstructed our business, where there's no force majeure.
Is that all in the
this one
contract?
is no, no,
Or you are interpreting?
This one is
No, no,
this one is not force majeure.
Oh, no, let him finish. Let him finish. Go ahead.
This one is not force majeure.
You see,
This one is
if you demand payment of your principal today in accordance with the agreement, there's no problem. But let's also be fair. The regular trading that Menzgold has been engaged in is not as regular as it is today. Do you know that?
Yes.
If under normal circumstances there was no problem and they were trading, not regulated, and you went and demanded for your investment immediately in accordance with the agreement, you lose 25%.
All right.
No.
Okay,
But
thank you.
we must also let me finish. Counsel,
Just a minute.
you've arrested my hands.
Okay, thank you.
Samson,
He said he wants to take
what
a
is
break.
happening
Let's go.
cannot be force majeure. What is happening is a very serious matter.
Yeah.
Menzgold has a claim under Article 23 of our Constitution. So if Menzgold is not paying dividends now, and Menzgold feels that they have the right, authority, and license to do what they are doing, and the activities of SEC or Bank of Ghana has damaged their business, they can sue.
You're right.
Well,
they have done so.
And get compensation and transfer the payment of that compensation to compensate the loss in the meantime of the
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. No, we are done with this issue, but it is instructive to note, like the note on which he ended, they have sued, and we have said they have sued. What we haven't done is to discuss the suit.
Yes.
Thank you very much. We'll take a break. We'll return. I'll share with you your views and comments that have come in as far as the Menzgold issue is concerned, and then we'll look at Amidu and the Auditor General. What characters are they? Difficult or what? We'll be right back. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. Now, your messages, let me share them with you. And Musa Abattoir in Kumasi saying that, in all honesty, the way government is dealing with the Menzgold is questionable. Do they know the consequences of shutting down the company? We are already facing jobless challenges in the system. There is a way of dealing with such matters. Certainly, shutdown is not the option. Okay. Ibrahim Kopa in Tamale says, fundamentally, government has no ill motive against Ghanaian businessmen. The impression created out there is as though the central government is against Menzgold and thus inciting the gullible public against the innocent public. The activities of Menzgold must certainly be regulated by the appropriate authorities. Well, this is the thread in many of the messages that come in, and some are asking, why? If they are irregular, why don't you regularize their business rather than take this route that collapses them? Eja Adam says that, okay, so his message doesn't come clearly, so I'll get some others for you. And, okay, so this one says that, did I hear you guys suggest that there is no bankruptcy laws in Ghana? Not exactly. And he's saying, but what is the Insolvency Act all about? Right, and he refers to sections 22 to 24 that capture and deal with bankruptcy in the Insolvency Act. So draws our attention to that. Right. Okay, got a couple more of your messages, but let's move on now. I've got a doctor, a senior doctor, who says that he's seen many patients in the course of last week with certain problems and blood pressures, and they are citing Menzgold as the source of their anxieties. Okay, so it's rather a very serious matter, as we already have become aware of.